Hello, welcome to the English Language Club. English tenses can seem really complicated, but here at the English Language Club we're on a mission to make English tense make sense. There are many things that can make tenses difficult, like irregular verbs. Every tense has got something weird about it. But that's why we've identified 3 English tense tips that will help you to understand how English tense work. If you really want to improve your English, then make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss future videos. Also, stay tuned at the end of this video because we've written a course called Inside English, which is designed to help you make tense make sense. There are a lot of things that make tenses seem complicated, like rules and exceptions and irregular verbs. But underneath all of that, there is a logic, and that is what we focus on in Inside English. So keep watching for more about that, but for now, let's get back to the video. The first tip is to do with sentence structures. Every sentence is made up of really important elements like the subject, the main verb, and the auxiliary verb. There are 3 structures that these words can take to define the meaning of a sentence and make it either a positive statement, a negative statement, or a question. Let's look quickly at these structures. The positive, saying that something does happen, for example, we are learning, is the subject, then the auxiliary verb, then the main verb. Then the negative, saying that something doesn't happen, for example, we are not learning, is subject, auxiliary verb, then the word not, and then the main verb. And then to make a question, so to ask whether something happens, is, for example, are we learning, starts with the auxiliary verb, then the subject, then the main verb. Many students get this wrong. I often hear people make a negative by using the word no. They say things like, I no like pizza. This is wrong because it misses out the auxiliary verb. And it should be not instead of just no. Also, people just try to make questions with the rising intonation. We're learning? In English, there are a few different types of questions, and you can do this in some situations, but it's normally better to start with the auxiliary verb. Are we learning? A lot of questions will also use question words like what, when, where, why, and how. But in these cases, this structure still applies. The auxiliary verb and the subject are still in that order. So I would say, why do you like pizza? We're not starting the question with the auxiliary verb, but it is still before the subject. The second tip is to do with identifying the tenses themselves. There are 12 tenses in English, but we also have things like gerunds and passive voice, which also affect the form of the main verbs and auxiliary verbs, so it can get confusing. Fortunately, there is a very easy way to know how to understand English tenses. The trick is to break the tense into 2 elements. The time of action, so past, present and future, and the type of action, simple, continuous and perfect. The time of action tells us what time we're talking about, a moment that's either in the past, the present or the future. And the type of action tells us about when the action starts or finishes. So, with these 3 times of action and with these 3 types of action, we can make the 9 tenses. Past simple, present simple, future simple, past continuous, present continuous, future continuous, past perfect, present perfect, and future perfect. Then there are 3 more tenses because tenses can be both perfect and continuous at the same time. So we also have the past perfect continuous, the present perfect continuous, and the future perfect continuous. So breaking the tenses down like this helps us to understand what they mean and not be overwhelmed by the fact that there's so many of them. By understanding the 2 elements, the time of action and the type of action, you can understand all 12 of the tenses. The third tip is to do with auxiliary verbs. These are sometimes called helping verbs, but it's confusing because it seems like sometimes we don't use them. However, they are actually the most important thing for forming and using tenses. We sometimes change the form of the main verb, but that's not really where our focus should be when we're thinking about tense. Let's look at some examples. Let's say someone asks you, do you take English classes? You could answer that in several different past and present tenses. Now, let's look at the pattern here. There are 3 different forms of the verb: take, taking, and taken. And there's lots of different forms of, and lots of different auxiliary verbs: do, did, am, was, had, and have. But let's take away the main verb and the rest of the sentence for a moment. The auxiliary verb alone is enough to figure out what tense each of these sentences is in. To know the tense, we need to know 2 things: the time of action, past, present, or future, and the type of action, simple, continuous, or perfect. So there's 3 auxiliary verbs here: do, be, and have, and 1 for each different type of action. The verb do goes with the simple type of action. The verb be goes with the continuous type of action. And the verb have goes with the perfect type of action. Because there's 1 auxiliary verb for each different type of action, we know the type of action just by looking at the auxiliary verb. We can also see the time of action based on the auxiliary verb, because in the past tenses, the auxiliary verb uses its past simple form. So did, was, or were, and had. And in future tenses, we've also got the extra auxiliary verb will or going to. So what's the tense for these sentences? I did take English classes. The auxiliary verb is did, so the type of action is simple and the time of action is past. We know this because it's in the past simple form, did rather than do. So the tense is past simple. And you can do the same thing for all of these sentences just by looking at the auxiliary verb. So you can see that auxiliary verbs are the most important thing to get tenses right. So those are our 3 tips for English tenses. There's a lot more to talk about for each of these tips, and that's why they form the 3 key ideas of our course Inside English. Stay tuned to hear more about that. But also make sure you're subscribed to the channel and look through some of our other videos for tips and lessons on how to improve your English. We've written a course called Inside English, and it goes a little bit deeper into these ideas and focuses on helping you make sense of tense. We've noticed that when learning about tenses, students often get overwhelmed because there are a lot of things that make tense seem complicated. But there really is a logic to English. And in order to find it, you have to forget about the exceptions and the dozens of little rules and focus on the basic principles of how it really works. English tenses are often taught as a list of rules to memorize. And when you learn English this way, you quickly get overwhelmed and bored and confused by all the exceptions and the irregularities. So this is actually a really terrible way to understand English, because it makes it difficult to understand how the language actually works. But there is a logic to English, and in this course, that is what we focus on. This course is designed for anyone hoping to improve their English with a particular focus on really understanding the tenses, how they're formed and when to use them. By the end of the course, you'll be able to speak English more comfortably because you understand what each tense means. And you'll instinctively use each tense with the correct form because you'll understand the key ideas of how tenses work. Instead of getting distracted and confused by the things that make tenses seem complicated, we will stay focused on the things that make tense make sense. We've identified 3 key ideas which are often not clearly taught, but they're actually really important. Then we'll look at the main tenses and we'll see how these key ideas apply to all of them without exceptions. So you can be sure that you will use what you've learned every time you speak English. You'll have seen a lot of the content in our free videos like this one, but if you sign up to the course, you'll get all that content delivered within a structure that will systematically help you build on what you already know. You'll also get interactive exercises so you can test yourself and help to retain what you've learned. If you sign up to the course, you'll also obviously help us, so it's a great way that you can support the English Language Club so that we can put out more content in the future. The ideal student for this course is someone who speaks English but gets confused by irregular verbs or lacks confidence because there are too many rules and exceptions to those rules. And because of this, it feels like there's too much to learn. It's not for complete beginners, but anyone who has a pre-intermediate or right up to native speakers will find that Inside English helps to make tense make sense. If you want to know more, then use the link in the description to find out how to sign up. Or you can check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next time.